I'm going to rank every single lightsaber duel in Star Wars, and I mean literally every single one. Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul, even the random freaking ones that no one in their right mind remembers, like Quinlan, Voss, and Obi-Wan versus Cad Bane. What a random duel. But luckily for me, we're starting off with the easiest duel I've ever seen in my entire life. This is Rey versus Kylo Ren in Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and this is so obviously going unwatchable. There's nowhere else in my mind that I could put it. In fact, I'm actually so disappointed by this duel. Let me try to give a little bit of an analogy. This may come as a shock to you, but I, in fact, am not an expert basketball player. Standing at a whopping 5'10", I actually am very bad at the sport. Just to emphasize how bad I really am at basketball, here's a video of me trying to slam dunk in front of all my friends and really embarrassing myself. Yeah, you know what? I'll just show you the video.
You can't
Yeah, not exactly my proudest moment. But even I, with my very limited skill in basketball, know how much of a slam dunk this duel is and unwatchable. I mean, it is just so deserving. I just came over there into the unwatchable category. No contest, no other place to put it. The biggest thing to me is the choreography. I mean, the choreography in this duel is so abysmally bad. It's like they're swinging baseball bats at each other and then using the force to stop the lightsaber. It truly makes me sick and sad to see. I would genuinely rather watch two hobos fight over someone's thrown away bag at McDonald's. I'd rather watch them fight over someone's leftover Happy Meal than watch this duel. Unwatchable all the way, nowhere else to put it. And on a similar note, we have Count Dooku versus Anakin and Obi-Wan from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And the reason I say on a similar note is because they are nothing in common. This is a legendary duel. I'm putting it in legendary. The choreography in this duel is genuinely so good. It's actually insane. I mean, the connection between Obi-Wan and Anakin to have the dual fighting while Count Dooku fends them both off and to separate them off into equal parts and take them on one at a time. Every single second of this duel is just awesome. It's so fun to watch. I really like this duel. I truly believe it is legendary. Up next, we have a Clone Wars duel. This is Anakin versus Count Dooku during the Clone Wars. I think this is the episode where the Gungans capture General Grievous and ransom him, and Count Dooku comes himself to get Grievous out. I don't remember too much about this duel, but I do remember that Anakin puts up a heck of a fight, and it's kind of like a significant point in the Clone Wars, because it's like, oh, frick, Anakin's actually getting powerful now. This guy's actually becoming something we don't want to deal with. So because of that, I think this duel is in the good or great tier, and I'm gonna put it great. Most of the Clone Wars duels you're gonna find are actually just freaking awesome duels that are great to watch. The Clone Wars did duels very well. Next up, for his third duel in a row, we have Anakin Skywalker versus Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Kenobi show. This is that one episode where Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting, and they're using this as like a comparison, a flashback to reference like, oh, this is how they're outmaneuvering each other and outthinking each other and how they've grown, and it's kind of, it's all right, I guess. It's all right. The actual duel itself is pretty good. I mean, for Disney Star Wars, this is better than the slop we usually get, so I'm pretty happy with this. On top of that, it is great to see Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen back with their lightsabers fighting each other in the Clone Wars era. Everyone loves that. I think this duel, in terms of choreography, is probably a good, but in terms of like emotional weight and placement in the episode, it's probably a great. So it's either good or great, and you know what? I'm gonna throw it great. I really like this duel. I do not really like this duel at all. In fact, I'm quite partial to not liking this duel whatsoever. This is Kylo Ren versus Luke Skywalker on Crate, when Luke Skywalker's phantom projecting itself. It's really not even a duel technically, because Luke Skywalker never has a chance to fight. He can't fight. He's a projection, which in my opinion is terrible character for Luke Skywalker. I think Luke Skywalker should have gone in person and actually fought his failure, his former student. So it's really a big disappointment to me that he didn't, and I really think this duel hurts my soul as a Star Wars fan. I really think Rian Johnson wanted to subvert our expectations with a, oh, Luke's not really there, he was a ghost the whole time, and it's not what the fans wanted to see. People wanted to see Luke Skywalker come back and save his friends and sister and all that, and save the Resistance. So it's a huge disappointment in my mind, and honestly, I'm putting this mediocre. It's not as bad as unwatchable, but man, it is sure as heck not great. This is that duel from the Ahsoka show with the Inquisitor and Ahsoka, and this one I think is barely a duel. This one, the Inquisitor swings like 4 times. I could be wrong, but I remember the Inquisitor swinging like 4 times like this, and Ahsoka like dodging and then getting the lightsaber, turning it off, and then turning it back on him. I think that's what happened, because it's been a while since I watched Tales of the Jedi. So because of that, I think I'm putting this average. I mean, it was cool, don't get me wrong, but as a duel goes, not that great. I guess lore-wise, it was good to see Ahsoka actually proving she could still, like, use the Force and still take on this freaking Inquisitor in a duel. That's pretty sick. So I think it's a pretty average duel. It's not good and it's not mediocre. Average. Coming up next, we have yet another Ahsoka duel, and it looks like this one is Ahsoka versus Grievous, and then after that, Ahsoka versus Barris, and after that, Ahsoka versus Jocasta Nu, or the Shapeshifter. So we have a couple of Ahsoka duels coming up. But just going one at a time, I think Ahsoka versus Grievous, this duel is alright. It is limited by the fact that it's a Season 1 Clone Wars duel, and those duels were simply not as good as the later seasons. Choreography, story, dialogue, none of the aspects that made the later Clone Wars duels so great are visible in this season. But at the same time, it's not bad. I think I'd put it in good. I mean, neither characters are phenomenal, and Ahsoka holds her own for being a mere small Padawan at the time. I think good's a fair place to put it. That's where I'd put it. I will say, whenever I see Grievous in a duel like this, I'm always shocked as why he doesn't pull out 4 arms, because I don't know if you guys remember, but a while ago I made a comparison about how if Grievous has 4 arms, it should be like physically impossible for him to lose a duel, because he pulls these 2 arms out and he's going to town, and then the other 2 arms pop out from below and he just freaking wrecks them. I mean, if you get their lightsaber in a lock like this with these 2 lightsabers and it's like this, if you pull out your other 2 arms and just stab them, they can do nothing against that. Nothing, literally nothing. So I think Grievous is kind of funny in that way because they kind of have to nerf him a little bit. Alright, coming up next we have Barris Offee versus Ahsoka, and this is like fake Barris. We think it's Ventress, ooh, but it's actually Barris Offee. And honestly, I'm thinking of putting this duel in great. I actually really like this duel. I think the setting in some abandoned Coruscant factory is really cool. I think the little deception we have where she's using the 2 lightsabers, but we don't really know it's Barris, we think it's Ventress. You know they're gonna live probably, but at the same time, you're like, well, there's a lot of bad things that could happen. And then Ahsoka gets caught. Something bad does happen. The duel actually has stakes and consequences. So because of that, I think this duel is going in great. I really enjoyed this duel. Ahsoka versus Jocasta Nu. I mean, it's not technically Jocasta Nu, it's a shapeshifter, but at the same time, I like to think it's Jocasta Nu, just because then we get an idea of what Jocasta Nu looked like in a fight, and it's freaking awesome. I think that most people would be very happy and satisfied to see any 70-year-old lady whip out a lightsaber and just start battling a child in single combat. It's not that groundbreaking in terms of choreography. It is cool, it's set inside the Jedi Temple, inside the Jedi Library, but I'm gonna put it in good, and it would be an average if Jocasta Nu wasn't the main fighter. I mean, come on, give me a duel with Jocasta Nu and you're giving me a good tier right off the bat. I'm not gonna put that anything lower. Oh, and you guys might be wondering why my room is such a freaking mess, and the answer, boys, is well, I'm moving out. This is my last video you'll ever see from inside this room, probably. Maybe if I come back someday, you will see another one, but as of right now, this is it. This is what I got. So that's all my stuff right there that I'm taking with me. Not all of it, but a bunch of it, and there's more to come. But yeah, this is the end of an era, the end of this Dadwerd room, and unfortunately, this is the really sad part. Klaud's not gonna be able to come with me. Klaud is not able to go with me, I know. It is canonically true that I, Dadwerd, have never been separate from Klaud in any circumstance whatsoever for more than 2 minutes. I mean, check the Dadwerd Wikipedia. It's a fact. When I drove to Walmart to film part of a Star Wars video there, Klaud was in the trunk. When I sleep at night, you think I leave a life-size statue in the corner of my room? Heck no. Klaud sleeps with me. So it really will be a true loss and a true burden to leave this legend behind, but that's how life is, boys. Sometimes you gotta leave behind your loved ones, and in this case, I'm leaving behind my most loved one. So, boys, say goodbye to Klaud. He'll be here for the rest of this video, and then I don't know when you'll see him again. Klaud, you've won our hearts, soldier. It really is. The ones you care about the most, those are the ones that you lose. Alright, back to the video. Kanan Jarrus versus the Temple Guards. This duel, I think, is actually a pretty good duel. I'm putting this on good tier. This one's fun. It's nice to see Kanan fight these guys, and these guys are so shrouded in mystery for the entire Star Wars universe that it is nice to actually see them out there fighting. Like, it's just genuinely nice to see that. So I think this is a good duel. I think it's fun, and I think it's nice to see Kanan actually build some lore through this duel too. It's not just a duel for the sake of dueling. Kanan is actually fighting his past. So I'm a big fan of that one. That one's going in good. The one I mentioned in the intro, Cad Bane versus Obi-Wan, and you can't say him here, but Quinlan Voss is in this duel too. This duel, I'm actually going to put in great just for how unique of a duel it is. I mean, look at it this way. You have 2 of the most accomplished Jedi in the entire Jedi Order, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Voss, and both of them get defeated in some sense. I mean, Cad Bane escapes, he gets out of there, and the actual duel itself is awesome. I mean, when Cad Bane gets the lightsaber, he gets defeated pretty easily, but up until then, he's flying away, he's throwing bombs, he's throwing bolos, those balls with a string on it that tie around Quinlan Voss's feet, and then he electrocutes Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, this duel is really fun to watch. I'm actually a very big fan of this duel. I think this duel is great. I'm putting this in great tier, and that's where it's staying. Coming up next is the subscribe button. Yes! Yes, the last Dadwerd video in the Dadwerd room, and we have the subscribe button on the tier list. What could possibly get better? And the subscribe button is going in legendary. Because you know what? It's been a lot of videos with the subscribe button on the tier list, and at this point, it deserves legendary status. It would mean the world to me if you hit that subscribe button. Did you know that only a small percentage of people watching are actually subscribed, as you see with this statistic right here? I would really appreciate it if you, who watch my videos every week, enjoy them, love them, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. It'd help me out greatly. Thank you very much. Barris Offee versus Anakin Skywalker. Now this duel, I'm putting in great. This duel is really fun. I love the environment of this duel. I love how it's all over the Jedi Temple. It starts in Barris's room, but then goes through the hallways, and it goes outside, and they see Terry Sanube and the Padawans that we saw a couple episodes earlier, and finally ends with Anakin just going full sicko mode and forcing her into a tree. Like, that is actually awesome. It's such a fun environment to watch. On top of that, this is where Anakin's anger really comes out, and we see his vengeful side and his anger that, you know, Barris framed his Padawan and she was gonna go to jail for a long time. We see Anakin really tap into the dark side, takes out 2 lightsabers to show that scumsucker how wrong she is. I mean, it's awesome. I actually really like this duel. I think this duel is super underrated, like a lot of the Clone Wars duels. Big fan. Luminara Unduli and Ahsoka Nu versus Asajj Ventress. This is a duel similar to the Grievous Ahsoka one in Season 1. It's a Season 1 duel, so it's not as, you know, high stakes or intense as some of the later duels. But at the same time, it's pretty cool. Ventress is a new character, and it's cool to see her fight and her fighting style. Ahsoka is still kind of annoying, so you don't care about her that much at this point in the show. But Luminara Unduli is also cool to see fight. So I think this is I'm putting this in good. I feel like in my mind, this is a similar level to this one. I mean, they go all over the ship, there's some stakes, Ventress blows some stuff up, and then she escapes with a prisoner. The duel's pretty interactive, and I like it. I'm putting that good. Ahsoka versus General Grievous. Now, this is one of a little bit later in the Clone Wars. This is the end of the Padawan's arc when they all get their crystals and they're all trying to escape Hondo Ohnaka's lair because he wants to kidnap the children because they're Jedi, I think. But this duel is pretty good. I mean, it's not very long. It's a pretty short duel, and it's only really to distract Grievous so the kids can escape. So it's not meant to be very long. But at the same time, it's a fun duel to watch. I mean, Grievous versus Ahsoka, it's nice to see this rematch after all these seasons. I think this is potentially the only 2 times they fight in the entire show. I guess we'll see as we move on a little bit. But I think this one is also, I've got to put this one great, because if I put this one good, this is better than that, I think. No, you know what? I'm putting this one good, because this one was a little worse quality-wise, but this one was way longer and more interactive. This was a very short duel, and it was only ever meant to be a distraction, to hold Grievous off for a little bit. So I'm putting this one in good. I think that's very fair. Mace Windu versus Palpatine. Now, this is one of the legendary duels. I gotta put this in legendary. This is one of the few times in Star Wars that we ever see Palpatine in a lightsaber duel, and this is actually awesome to see. It's really fun. And it's also one of the few times we see Mace Windu in a duel, and it's also awesome. The purple lightsaber is so sick to see in an actual fight. It's really cool. Such a great shade of purple. And look, boys, I'm partial to purple. I mean, I wear a purple shirt in every single video I make. I love purple. I'm a sucker for a purple lightsaber. My one complaint with this duel is that Palpatine is able to kill the 3 other Jedi, Agen Kohler, Kit Fisto, and Saesee Tiin so quickly. Oh, I just hit my mic. I hate hitting my mic, but whatever. He's able to kill those 3 Jedi. Sorry, whenever I do that, I just gotta go, man, Jedward, why'd you do that? You freaking son of a gun. Every time. But as I was saying before, I was really interrupted by this stupid mic right here. Oh, look at that sticker though. Look at this pog chip. Look how happy he is. This is what I like to see. This is what I imagine you guys look like when I make my videos. You're watching my videos and you have the big smile and you have the sunglasses on. That's what I imagine you're like. Focus, Jedward. As I was saying, Saesee Tiin, Agen Kohler, and Kit Fisto all get killed way too quickly for Jedi Masters. I mean, Palpatine sits there, pulls out a lightsaber, sits there for another second or two, and then jumps at them doing a couple spins. And they're like, what the frick just happened? And then they look down and they have holes in their stomach, and Saesee Tiin's going as he wails and falls over. It's just annoying to see. I want to see a little bit of a better performance. I really do. But all that aside, I still think this is a legendary duel. I'm very happy to put it there. Next up is another Clone Wars duel, and this, if I remember correctly, is Count Dooku sliding down a shaft to escape Anakin and Obi-Wan, which is why he's shooting Force Lightning at them. I think Anakin's sliding down after him and Obi-Wan's going around in an elevator or something. This duel is very short. I think it's pretty average, nothing special about it, and compared to a lot of the Clone Wars duels, nothing great, nothing that important about it. I'm putting that in average. Up next is one of the most underrated duels in all of Star Wars, and I am being so dead serious. This is Obi-Wan and Ventress versus Savage Opress and Darth Maul after Obi-Wan kind of first finds out Darth Maul is alive, and they fight in the cargo hold of the ship. And this duel is so cool. First of all, Obi-Wan and Ventress teaming up in general is actually a sight to behold and really fun to watch, it turns out. And the fact they have to keep switching opponents, and Obi-Wan's fighting Darth Maul, and then he's fighting Savage, and going back and forth, and they both barely get a victory off by trapping them in their own ship. That is actually such a cool duel. And on top of that, boys, you know me. I'm a sucker for a curved tail. I'm a sucker. Look at this bad boy. I mean, just look how cool this looks. Look how tough I look when I swing this. I feel like a psychopath. I'm about to go sicko mode on those younglings. Just kidding. That's a joke. For all intents and purposes, that's a joke. But what I was trying to say is that seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi, the legend himself, one of the greatest characters in Star Wars, use a curved hilt and a red one at that, beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye every time. I start weeping openly. Ask my family. They know. I'm putting this duel in legendary. That's not a hot take of me at all. I think that's very fair, actually. This is General Grievous versus Kit Fisto and Nadaar something, and this duel pisses me the frick off for one reason and one reason only. Nadaar is the biggest freaking loser in all of Star Wars. I hate this guy so much. Oh, come on, Master. I know I just became a Jedi Knight like a week and a half ago, and I know I'm a total loser and incompetent with a lightsaber, but come on. We can take Grievous, or not even we. I can take Grievous alone. He has 4 lightsabers, but I can take him. No! Freaking dork, you can't take Grievous. Honestly, and he pays the price for it. Gets freaking killed through the heart. I'm putting this mediocre. This isn't even a mediocre duel. I'm just mad now that I'm thinking about Nadaar and what a loser he is. This is Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader from the Kenobi show, where they're in the dark and they're running through these like construction site on the sand, and Obi-Wan's like running away every time he sees Vader, and then when he does see Vader, he's like barely blocking and like stumbling under every blow. This duel really pissed me off. I really thought we saw Obi-Wan Kenobi outside of his element in a way that he shouldn't have been. As a character, he wouldn't have done this badly and been this scared, I think. I'm putting this duel in mediocre with Nadaar. But speaking of the Kenobi show, we have Darth Vader versus Reva next, and this duel I'm actually a big fan of. I didn't love the Kenobi show, as you know if you saw my ranking every Star Wars show video. I didn't love it, but I think this duel is honestly probably good, bordering great. I think, you know what, I'm putting it great. Because when I first saw the duel, I was so worried that they were gonna overpower Reva, because they obviously loved Reva so much and wanted Reva to be a popular character in the show, which she wasn't, by the way. So I was worried they were gonna make her an actual contender to Darth Vader, and she just wasn't, which was awesome to see. On top of that, Vader was just a beast in this duel. He was popping the frick off. He was humiliating Reva. I remember the scene where he had the two double-bladed lightsabers. He took it from her with the Force. He broke it apart and gave her a lightsaber. He was like, you know what? Try me. Bring it on. Bring it on. And then he smoked her anyway. The only annoying thing about it is that Reva somehow got stabbed through the chest and then lived, which is like, you know, a consistent problem with Disney Star Wars, as we all know. You know what? I'm gonna put it good. I'm gonna put it good because of that, but I really enjoyed the duel, actually. I'm a big fan of it. If Reva had just died right there, it would be a great duel. It would have had actual consequences and actual stakes, but we were so close and didn't make it. Ahsoka versus Barris Offee. Now, this isn't the time that Barris Offee almost threw Ahsoka to the wolves of Coruscant, almost threw her into the dens of just trickery and deceit. This is just when Barris Offee has the brain worm and goes psycho on Ahsoka, and then they freeze it out of them. But I think this one, I think it's an average duel. Nothing special, nothing great, but it's not bad. I mean, Barris Offee versus, and most of the Clone Wars duels are average as a base tier. Unless you have some total nitwit like Nadaar in the duel, then it's an average duel. I'd say that's very, very typical of the Clone Wars. I'm gonna put this in average. Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Ahsoka. Now, this is Ahsoka's turn to be brainwashed. This is when they go to the planet with the son and the daughter, and they turn Ahsoka against Obi-Wan and Anakin. I think this duel is probably, I'm gonna put this in good. I like this duel. It's fun. It's nice to see Ahsoka fight Anakin and Obi-Wan, but there's nothing special about it besides the fact that it's Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting Ahsoka. Count Dooku and Yoda in Attack of the Clones. This is an S tier duel if I ever saw one. I really like this duel. This is so cool to me because this is the first time that we ever saw Yoda in a lightsaber duel, and I'm told the audiences went berserk in theaters. They saw Yoda pull out that lightsaber, and they're like, holy cow, he's actually doing it! And that is something I would have killed to see live. I would have loved to see that. If only, this duel came out in 2002, Attack of the Clones came out in 2002, it's 2024, so 22 years ago, so I'm 38 minus 22. If only I hadn't been 16 when this duel came out, I maybe could have seen it in theaters. Count Dooku versus Yaddle. Alright, I'm gonna level with you guys, you know me. I'm a sucker for Count Dooku. You saw just a second ago I have his lightsaber. I love the curved tail, I love the story. Count Dooku is a G in my opinion. So Count Dooku being in a duel is just gonna put him higher in my book. I love him, he's a great duelist. So, Count Dooku versus Yaddle in my opinion is a great duel. I love that, Count Dooku really makes a decision and decides to actually, commit and fight Yaddle to the death. And then he thinks he's killed her, but then all of a sudden, she raises from the ashes like a phoenix, pushes the thing off of her, and then goes back for more, and Dooku just has to kill her. I'm not gonna say Dooku did the right thing, but I will say, kind of a Sigma move on Dooku's part. So I'm putting this in great. I really enjoyed this duel. I'm putting this great tier. Next up is another underrated duel. This is Gallia and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul and Savage Opress. And I like this one too a lot. I think this one is also great tier. It's a little worse than the Ventress Obi-Wan in my opinion, but I enjoyed it a lot. The terrain of it is awesome, where they're jumping all over Hondo's shipyard, and then in the end, Savage headbutts Gallia and kills her. That is a plot twist I did not expect. I'm a big fan of this duel. I'm putting a great tier. Up next is a not so great duel, and that is Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul on Tatooine. I mean, this duel is alright. It's the first time we see a Sith in the Phantom Menace, but at the same time, there's no double-bladed lightsaber. Neither of them is that great, and to make it all the worse, they're fighting in the middle of the day on Tatooine, so the lightsabers look really dim and unappealing, if I may say that. So I'm gonna put this in mediocre. I think it's you know what? It's not very good. I'm putting that mediocre. It's not very good. I will say, I do like the fact that Darth Maul at this point in the movie has no idea who Anakin Skywalker is or what his significance is, and yet he sees Anakin Skywalker and thinks to himself, you know what? I'm gonna run that scumsucker over. I'm gonna hit that kid as hard as I can with my speeder. And it's only from Qui-Gon saying, Anakin, drop! That prevents Darth Maul from not making toast out of that poor boy. So I think that's funny, but it's still going to mediocre. This is that Clone Wars duel with Count Dooku versus Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Bounty Hunter episodes, and I think this duel is genuinely probably a good tier. I enjoy this duel. The only thing that really sets it apart is that Obi-Wan is dressed and has the tattoo and he's bald and he looks like Reiko Hardin. That's what really sets this duel apart. It's cool to see Reiko Hardin in a fight. On top of that, there is one sick scene where Obi-Wan's fighting Count Dooku, or Anakin's fighting Count Dooku, and Count Dooku uses the Force and throws all these forks and knives and dinner utensils at him, and Anakin does this, and they all stick in his, oh, look at that muscle, holy cow, sorry, getting off topic. It's cool to see Anakin block all the knives and utensils and the forks with his arm, and then pick this out and rip the forks out, and they spark a little bit. That is a sick scene. That's very creative of Dave Filoni. I'm putting a good tier. I think it's nothing too special about it, but it's fun. Next up is Rey versus Kylo Ren from The Force Awakens, and I'm gonna put this duel in good. I think this duel is actually, I know, Dadwerd, you're putting a sequel duel in good tier? I know. Sue me, call me crazy, but I'm doing it anyway. Aside from the fact that Rey really should not be that good with a lightsaber and Kylo Ren really should not be that bad, the choreography is fun, the scenery is really cool. This is one of the few sequel duels and duels from Disney in general that has a duel set at night without it being hopelessly dark and hard to see anything, so that's always a plus. On top of that, it's the first time we see Kylo Ren's cross-guard lightsaber in a duel, and it's really cool. Like, I actually genuinely love that lightsaber. Overall, I think it's just pretty fun and a pretty fun duel to watch in general, and I'm gonna be the bigger man, and as much as I dislike The Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy as a whole, I'm gonna be the bigger man and put that in good tier. I think it's not that bad, and I think, you know what, if we're mature, we can all kind of recognize that. Up next is Ezra versus, I think this is one of the Inquisitors, I think. I'm gonna be honest with you boys, I do not remember this duel one lick. I can't remember a single swing of this duel. So it's time to add a tier to the Dadwerd tier list. It was inevitable, but we're finally gonna do it. Ain't nobody remember this duel, and I'm gonna put this right here. Anyway, I'm saying ain't nobody remember this duel because I'm sure almost every single one of you will, and I'm just embarrassed that I don't, so I'm gonna project and act like no one will remember this duel because, you know, obviously no one's gonna remember this duel. Gallia versus General Grievous, and I think Obi-Wan's in this duel too, and this is when Eth Koth gets kidnapped. Man, I know these episodes cold, except for that last one with Ezra. I know these episodes like the back of my hand. This is when Eth Koth gets kidnapped and they gotta go rescue him. And this duel is pretty good. It's a pretty generic Grievous Jedi duel. I'm gonna put it in average. I think that's pretty fair. Next, we have General Grievous versus Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, and this duel is legendary. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was so innovative to have one guy with one lightsaber fight a guy with 4 arms and 4 lightsabers and make it look actually good. I mean, this duel is phenomenal. It looks really good, it's really fun, and it was one of the most, you know, creative duels in all of Star Wars. What's up, gang? I also love the scenery in this duel. They go all over, they get in the bikes and they ride to the platform, and then Obi-Wan kills Grievous. I mean, it's great. Also, just so you know, my sister walked over there just a second ago, which is why I just acknowledged her by saying what's good, gang, if you're curious. But yeah, General Grievous, legendary duel. I like that one a lot. And speaking of Obi-Wan versus General Grievous, we have yet another one from the Clone Wars, and this is Obi-Wan versus Grievous. I think, why does the lightsaber look purple in that one? I think it's because they have a blue and green lightsaber clashing, maybe. I don't freaking know. I'm not a scientist, but regardless of the reason, this is from that Clone Wars episode where they're on the Malevolence, that's what it's called, the Malevolence. And they're fighting in that chamber on the trains, and they're jumping from train to train trying to kill each other. This duel, you know, it's a typical season 1 duel. I think it's average. I'm putting it on average. It's pretty fine. It's not bad, but it's not my favorite duel either. Alright, we still have a good couple duels to go, so hang tight, everybody. Hang in there. We're doing good. We're doing great. So far, this tier list is looking very fine to me. I'm satisfied with where I'm putting all this stuff, so just keep on trucking. We got this one. Let's keep going. Obi-Wan versus Pre Vizsla on Mandalore. This is when Obi-Wan first finds out about the Death Watch plot, and this is the first time we see the Darksaber in a duel. And the Darksaber is absolutely awesome in a duel. The Darksaber has way better duels later on. I think this one is probably average. I mean, it's cool because the one good part of this duel, it's not even really part of the duel, but the one good part is when Pre Vizsla walks out, and there's another Mandalorian that Obi-Wan has just been fighting for like 3 minutes, and Pre Vizsla walks over, goes, failure, and shoots him in the face. That seems funny as frick. I'll put it on the screen right now. You gotta give it to Pre Vizsla. That guy was a Sigma, and you can't even blame him. I mean, look, if the guy was a hypocrite and he said failure and shot the guy when the guy messed up, but now when he messed up, then yeah, he'd be a hypocrite. But when Pre Vizsla lost a duel, he looks at Maul and goes, you know what? Only the strongest shall rule. So he played by his own rules. I gotta give him credit for that. But aside from, that's not even part of the duel. Aside from that, the duel itself is pretty average. I'm putting that average tier. Back to Rebels, we have Kanan and Ezra versus Darth Vader. And this is when they're on the military plant and they're like, Kanan, he's here. And Darth Vader walks out of the shadows like a Sigma and then ignites his ultra thin lightsabers because they love their thin lightsabers in Rebels. But I'm putting this duel, I think this one's average. It's all right. Nothing special about it. All right, coming up next, we have, well, dinner time. And as you know, I'm not gonna cook my own dinner, so I gotta go eat what's being served. But we will be back. Rest assured, this list is not even close to being over, and we'll finish it in a second. But right after I go eat dinner, so I'll catch you guys in a couple minutes. For you, it'll be 2 seconds. If you could see now, you'd be proud. Hey, we're Jesus, save me, blue jean baby, born in the USA. I got cake at dinner, delicious. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul, the Duel of the Fates. Now, this is one of the most well-regarded duels in all of Star Wars. I think this is honestly one of the more popular ones of all time. Now, about 9 months ago, I did a video where oh, here it is right here. I ranked every lightsaber duel in Star Wars on my channel about 9 months ago. And I'm doing this video, you know, the video you're watching now, I'm doing this concept again for a couple reasons. First of all, that video performed mad good. Like, I actually got a ton of views. So you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And second of all, and more importantly, to be honest, this video was in numerical order. So for example, right here, we have like, oh, number 25, Rey versus Kylo Ren. And it goes all the way down the list until on number 1, we have like, whatever I put as number 1. And that is flawed for several reasons, mostly because it doesn't mean I can say good things are good, you know? This tier list right here allows me to say like, oh, all these duels are legendary, not just, you know, one of them is the best. So that's what's good about it. That's why I'm making this video again, so I can do a different format, and to be honest, so I can include more duels. This video is like scripted, you know, thought out ahead of time content, so I only included 25 duels total, whereas this video, as you can see, has like easily 50 or 60 duels in here. I mean, all the duels in Star Wars, Rebels, Clone Wars, random TV shows, the works, whereas the other one didn't have every technically. So that's why I'm making this one. But the only reason I bring that up is to say that this duel right here, even in that video, was very, very highly regarded. I put that very near the top. I think I either put it number 3 or number 2. So I'm putting this duel in legendary. There's nowhere else to put it. It is truly just one of the all-time great Star Wars duels. It really is. Up next is the Grand Inquisitor versus Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger. Now, I like this duel casually. I don't think it's great. I do like Kanan a lot. So Kanan shines in this duel, and his fight with the Grand Inquisitor is really good. And the Grand Inquisitor's death is also really good, where he says, some things are scarier than death, or something along those lines. That's pretty good. But the duel itself is I'm gonna put it good. I think it's a pretty average duel. There's nothing too special about it. The thing I do like is it has Ezra's blaster lightsaber, and he uses the blaster a little bit. I always love seeing that thing, but for the most part, I'm putting it good. Koth versus General Grievous. Now, this is the episode where the commando droids come in and absolutely shrek Koth. Like, they just lay waste to him, and then after they do a number on him, the Baghdad guards come in and do more on him, and after that, then General Grievous comes in and just goes to town on Koth. So, it really is like the most cowardly Grievous duel ever, because he cannot lose. He has a whole staff around him making sure he's safe. So, it's not really a great duel in general. I think it's a pretty average duel because General Grievous is such a coward. No hate to Koth. This guy's a living legend, but I think it's average tier. Nothing too special about it. Sabine Wren versus Kanan Jarrus, and Sabine Wren has the Darksaber. Now, boys, this is where my known lack of knowledge of Rebels season 3 and 4, known and highly disregarded lack of knowledge, comes in, because I have not seen this duel in the show. I don't know the context, and I really don't know what exactly happens in the duel. Because of that, I'm putting this in Ain't Nobody Remember This Duel. Now, you know what? I'm just being lazy. Let me add a new tier. Wow, you haven't watched this? Question mark? Loser. So you guys are happy, and I'll put this right there. Are you happy now? Are you satisfied? Are we done here? Thank you very much. Ezra and Kanan versus those Inquisitors next to that Sith temple. Now, this duel is the definition of an average duel. Nothing crazy happens except for the fact that they get those spinning lightsabers, and they spin their way down, and they go all over, and they get the helicopter lightsabers out of it. That's the only exciting thing that happens in the entire duel. Nothing else of value happens. Next up is The Force Awakens. We have Finn versus Kylo Ren, and this duel is way worse than the Rey versus Kylo Ren one. I gotta give him credit for that. The Rey versus Kylo Ren one, as I said earlier, is actually pretty good.
Finn versus Kylo Ren.
I am. This is the next one coming up. Next one on this list. Never believe who's back. The one and only Dadwerd. I was saying this is the last video they'll ever see in this room.
No, not really.
Well, I'm moving out.
Well, there's no way Finn would have even lasted a second. A second. Like, he would have.
That's what I'm saying.
He would have glanced at Kylo Ren, and they would have been sliced in half.
I know. That's why he lasted longer than he should have. He still got sliced up on his back. He lost.
Oh, he got scratched.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's every sequel movie. They always get scratched. I'll put this one in a mediocre.
Mediocre. It's worse than the word. No, unwatchable.
Well, I can't put it on the same level as Kylo Ren and Rey. This one was actually unwatchable.
No, she at least had some skill, like innate skills from her DNA.
At the very least, they weren't swinging like a baseball bat in this one.
I think that's wrong.
Let's see. We'll see in the comments who agrees. Anyway, next up we have Kylo Ren and Rey in the Red Room from Episode 7, The Last Jedi. Now, this duel is visually not terrible. When you get down into the weeds, the choreography is really bad, and then they kind of ruin it at the end completely, 100%, by making Kylo Ren fight with Rey on her side, and at the end be like, "What? You don't want to rule my evil empire with me?" and go evil on her and go back to trying to destroy the Resistance. It is a pointless act of him to help her and her to help him in this room, because in the end they just part ways inevitably. This duel is actually, it's not unwatchable, but it's very mediocre in my opinion. So far, nothing's beaten the Rey versus Kylo Ren from Rise of Skywalker, because this duel really pisses me off like very few things do. So this is slightly better than that, but not by much. And then next up,
I have another thing to say.
Uh-oh. That's never good.
So the Finn one,
we're way past that.
I'm not though.
Okay, all right.
I can never get over that.
Say your piece. Say your piece.
It's almost that one should have gone down just like in Indiana Jones: Raiders of the Lost Ark when Indiana Jones, is looking for Marion, and the crowd splits, and there's that big swordsman weaving the sword, and he turns around and just shoots him so he can get on with what he was doing.
Yeah.
That should have been they should have done the exact same scene but with lightsabers. That would have been the equivalent of that.
That would have actually been pretty cool. It would have kind of defeated their narrative. Yeah. They actually, you know what? I hate to give it to him, but Dadwerd got it right for once. Next up, we have Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar, and I'm not gonna say a word. That goes straight to S tier. There's nowhere else to put it. That is the legendary Star Wars duel. That is probably the greatest. Not probably. Greatest duel in all of Star Wars. The most iconic duel in all of Star Wars. Absolutely legendary. Tere Sinube versus that girl who stole Ahsoka's lightsaber in the Clone Wars. This is the most average duel. The only thing that saves this duel is because Tere Sinube's got the lightsaber in his cane. So he's able to pull that out of his cane, and it's actually a pretty cool moment when he does. That's what I think about that, but there's not much else to say. It's like a four swings, and then she's on the ground, so it doesn't last very long. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. Now, this is an S tier duel. This is iconic. This scene right here, oh, you can't see the picture because I put it down behind my camera, but this right here, this image is one of the iconic Star Wars images. When you think of Star Wars, you think of these two characters facing off, father and son in Cloud City. And the duel, look, maybe the choreography isn't the greatest, but for the time, it's very good. The lightsabers look great for the time, and the scenery is incredible. And then you have the whole scene right after where Luke gets his hand cut off, and he has a really disgusting crying face when he is like, no. No. You know what? Nothing else I can say. Fire duel, I'm putting that in legendary. Mother Talzin versus Mace Windu. I think this is the only other time we might see Mace Windu on this list besides, with him versus Palpatine. And this, I'm gonna put, this is a pretty good duel. I actually really like, one of the best things about it is when Mother Talzin, dang, a truck just hit the building over there. As I was saying, one of the best things about this duel is that Mother Talzin pulls out that like legendary sword, and it's like made of the magic or whatever. That is pretty sick. I actually really like that. So I think the duel itself isn't phenomenal. Like, it's not choreographically brilliant, but it's a cool setup between guy with a purple lightsaber and like evil witch with green magic who makes magic sword. I'm a simple man. Show me a magical sword and I'll put it good tier. I'm putting that in good. Nah, I'll put it average. So this makes no real sense, because next up we have Anakin beheading Count Dooku, and yet the second thing I put on this list was Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku. It's not fair for these are not separate duels. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, they are, because Obi-Wan gets knocked unconscious, and then they really get into it and get really intense, and Count Dooku's like, I sense great fear in you, Skywalker. Yeah, I do remember that. You know what? This duel's legendary too. This is actually a great moment. These two duels are similar on par because they are basically the same duel. Both going legendary. Real fans know that this next one is one of the greatest duels in Star Wars, and that is Darth Sidious versus Savage Opress and Darth Maul. This is one of the only times in the Clone Wars you see Sidious with two lightsabers, because before this, I didn't even know he had two lightsabers, and then he actually has an awesome deal with both of these characters, and he pops off. Takes on both of them like it's nothing. Choreography is great, characters are great, and the introduction is very good, and the death of Savage is done very well. This one is going legendary tier. Man, this list is getting so big, I have to like scroll up to put it. Wow. Hang in there. We're not too far away. We're getting closer. The Grand Inquisitor versus Kanan Jarrus. I mean, at the end of the day, this will always just be a worse version of this one in good with Kanan and Ezra. I'm gonna default and put this one in average. I think that's a pretty fair place for it. Nothing too special. And it's just two characters fighting off before their ultimate finale fighting off, Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. Now, Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, is one of the best duels in Star Wars, in my opinion, because of the emotional weight of it. I mean, this one you kind of have like, where is it? This one right here, you kind of have the energy where it's like, man, this is the first time they're encountering each other, and then Luke loses. Luke flips the switch, flips the script, Luke loses. But this one, he comes back and you're like, all right, Luke's either got to win or he's got to die or he's got to turn to the dark side. There's one of three possibilities. So there's way more stakes in this one. And you know that George Lucas will really do anything after he made the main character lose in the last movie. So I think this duel is really good. And I think it really shows like how powerful Luke's gotten and, shows the connection he has with Vader. I'm going to put this one up here in legendary. This is also one of the greats. I'll put it right next to this one right here. These two are hand in hand. This one is that random Clone Wars episode where Ahsoka finds Death Watch on that random snow planet. And then this scene right here, I don't remember the duel she has with Pre Vizsla very much, but I do remember is there's one moment where she's sitting there like this with her hands behind her back, and she gets your lightsabers, like uses the Force, jumps up and does a spinning like this, and decapitates 4, not 2, not 3. I don't know why my fingers are doing that. Not 2, not 3, 4, maybe more than 4. The clip next to me will show, but a lot of guys, like a lot of Death Watch, it just decapitates them, and their heads fall and their bodies slump. that is an epic moment, and that's one of the moments where Clone Wars is like, you realize Clone Wars has gotten a lot more mature than season 1, where it's like Ahsoka being like, "You'll never take me alive, Grievous." So I think this is honestly, I'll put this in. I think it's good. It's not a very big duel. I'll put it in good. Just the one moment kind of saves it where she beheads the 4 guys, at least 4. Next up is The Mandalorian versus Gustavo Fring, owner of Los Pollos Hermanos. And this duel is, it's good. It's not great, it's good. The choreography isn't great, and neither of the characters are like, you know, absolutely out there popping the frick off, but it's pretty good. It's passable, and it's fun to see these characters fight because The Mandalorian isn't a really big dueling show, with swords at least, with a lightsaber and a staff. Usually it's more just Mandalorian sitting there, and someone that pisses him off, and he goes, pulls out a gun on him. That's more the Mandalorian style. Darth Maul versus Pre Vizsla. This is for the throne of Mandalore, keep in mind. And this duel is genuinely one of the better ones of the show. It's probably honestly a top 20 duel in the show. And that's saying something because there's like 2 duels every episode. So this duel I put in good. I think the stakes of it are really good, where Darth Maul walks in and challenges Pre Vizsla. I love the actual duel itself, where Pre Vizsla is using a jetpack and he's using like the razors and guns he has on his gauntlet and a flamethrower, and Maul's just out there popping the frick off. Honestly, the more I think about this is going in great. This is going in great. It's not good enough for good. It's going in great. Next up is the 3 Inquisitors versus Ahsoka. It's that Kanan and Maul in Rebels. The Rebels episode where they're going to the Sith Temple. This duel is pretty good. This is a good duel, I'd say. Nothing too special about it. It's nice to see all these characters back, I will say. It's nice to see Ahsoka fighting. It's nice to see Maul back after Maul got introduced, and we know who he is, but, you know, Ezra doesn't. And it's nice to see, you know, Kanan just out there doing his best. We all love to see Kanan trying, so I think that's a pretty generic good duel. It's not great, nothing phenomenal, but it's fun. It's a fun duel to watch. Speaking of alright duels, this looks to be the Kanan versus Darth Maul on Malachor. And this is almost in the exact same tier as this, although I will say, this duel is less interesting than the, you know, Ahsoka, Maul, Kanan versus the Inquisitors. This is a little less interesting. Actually, you know what? I take that back, because Kanan is recently blind, and it's really cool to see Kanan discover that he doesn't need the eyesight. He has the Force, and use that to his advantage. So I'm putting this, I'm also going to put this right next to this one in good. Now, if you boys been watching the channel for a while, then you'll remember that I'm not a big fan at all of the Clone Wars movie from 2009. I really think that it is one of the worst Star Wars pieces of cinema to come out. And I mean, compared to a lot of the stuff now, it's not so bad, but at the time, compared to the Clone Wars TV show, it was not good. I really did not enjoy it, and the reviews agree with me. Everyone on like Rotten Tomatoes is on my side. But this duel right here, where Count Dooku versus Anakin, is genuinely not bad, and icing on the cake is one of the only times that Christopher Lee voiced Count Dooku in an animated project. He's never done it in any other time, so I gotta give him props for that. Plus, the duel itself is not bad. The duel itself is pretty cool. It has like Count Dooku using the Force to whip sand on Anakin and things of that nature. I think it's pretty good. I like this one. I'll put this one in good. We're having a lot of good duels right now. Not average, not great, but good, passable duels. Adi Gallia versus General Grievous. Now this is a run-of-the-mill Grievous duel. Nothing too special happens here. I mean, it's in kind of a cool area because they're trying to, you know, not fall to their deaths in the ship, but nothing really important happens. It's not super monumental, and I'll put this one in average. There's nothing too great about it. It's a typical Grievous duel. This one right here is under the exact same circumstances, like literally exact same identical circumstances. It's Obi-Wan versus Grievous on the Maleficent, or Malevolence, that's what it's called. Is it Maleficent or Malevolence? It's Malevolence. Maleficent is that kid's witch from the Disney movies. This is where they're on the train in the Malevolence, and Grievous is trying to find him, and Obi-Wan's kind of half running away. This duel is in the exact same boat as this one. They're both kind of typical Grievous duels. I believe this next one is Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Ventress in the first couple episodes of Clone Wars. I could be wrong, but it looks like she's wearing that dress she used to wear. This duel is, again, pretty average, run-of-the-mill. It's kind of just generic, like, oh, they're whacking away at Ventress and she's trying to run away, and then eventually she escapes because she always escapes, and they don't get her. And it's pretty generic. Nothing too special about that. Ugh, sorry, too much cake. Ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Savage Opress. Now this is Savage Opress versus Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this duel, I mean, it's a pretty run-of-the-mill duel. The only thing cool about it is that we don't really know much about Savage at this point, so we're getting a look into how good and magically enhanced he is with his double-blade lightsaber. That's like the only thing about it that makes it slightly interesting, because nothing really happens. If Savage gets away, Anakin and Obi-Wan don't get him, and that's kind of it. Now this next one is one of the most underrated duels in the Clone Wars, in my professional opinion, and that is General Grievous versus Asajj Ventress on Dathomir with the Night Sisters. And this duel right here is actually really cool. It's really indicative of these two characters, because they both tell their troops to back off. The Night Sisters stay back, Ventress says, and Grievous says, the droids stay back. And then as soon as Grievous is getting ready to lose, he's like, kill her! And all they start shooting, and Ventress can't kill Grievous, and he just cheats his way out of it yet again. Although, to be fair, if I was about to die, no guarantees I wouldn't do the same thing. But the duel itself is pretty good. It's fun to watch. It's really fast-paced and interesting. And it's nice to see these two conflicting styles go at each other. I'm a big fan of it. I really enjoy it. I think I'm going to put this one in good. I think that makes sense. No, you know what? I think this is slightly good enough to put it in great. You know what? List just got a lot longer. I'm putting it in great. That's that. Hands free. Now, this is when Darth Maul first returns, and he and Savage want to bring Obi-Wan to them, so they lure him over, have a duel where Obi-Wan thinks he's going to win. He's like, I've beaten you once, so I can do it again. And then gets beat the frick up. Gets absolutely rocked in every sense of the word. So the duel itself isn't too great, but it is cool that this is Darth Maul's first time coming back, and Obi-Wan's shock at seeing Darth Maul kind of makes it all the better. This one is going in, I'll put this one in good. I think it's not great, but it's good. Now the next one is also a Darth Maul one. It's when Savage Opress is kind of like, hey, Maul, you know, maybe we can run a cooperation, or, you know, I'm not dumb, maybe I can lead this thing. And Darth Maul freaks the frick out and decides to go A-mode on him and say, you know what, try me, Savage, try me. And Savage tries him, and as you can see in this picture, ends up on the floor in a daze. So it's not really that big of a duel, it's just kind of like a show of power. I think it's pretty average. It's not bad, but it's not good either. The Grand Inquisitor versus Ezra and Kanan. This is when he finds him in the prison, and he fights both of them, and they both escape, and nothing really happens. And it's kind of annoying because as you know if you watched the channel before, I'm not a big fan of the spinning Inquisitor lightsabers. I do this and just start spinning. No skill whatsoever, not impressive, and not even that cool in my opinion. I really do not like that. And this is where those first come to light. This is the first time you see him spin it, and the showrunners so obviously want you to go, holy cannoli. His lightsaber is spinning! Ah! I'm putting this one average. I think it's a very average duel. Nothing too special about it. Wow, I do not remember this duel whatsoever. Like, literally zero memory of it. I think I assume it's with Kanan Jarrus because that's Kanan's lightsaber right there, but I'm putting this in ain't nobody remember this duel, because if I don't remember it, it must be physically impossible to remember. That's how the rule works. That's how the game works. I don't make the rules. I just play the game. So if I don't remember it, none of you remember it. That's how it is. Sorry. Next, we have Yoda versus Palpatine, and this is in the exact same boat. If I have to scroll up a little bit, but this is the same boat as Palpatine versus Mace Windu. Anytime Palpatine's involved, it's just gonna be a good duel. Palpatine exclusively has good duels. He is just the duel master, and when he's in a duel, you know it's about to go down. Like, it's serious now. On top of that, this duel is one of the most unique settings in the Republic Senate, and they're throwing Senate chairs at each other. Choreography is good, the dialogue's good. I really do think Yoda could have gone back and finished the job, though. He kind of fell down and was like, you know what? I guess this isn't for me, and then leaves the galaxy to be ruled by one of the most evil men to ever exist. So, not really a great move on Yoda's part, but it is what it is. Ahsoka versus Morgan Elsbeth. Now, this duel is pretty cool because it's the first live-action Ahsoka duel we ever see, and it's actually pretty well choreographed. I enjoy this duel a lot. I think this one's almost exactly the same level as the Mandalorian versus Moff Gideon, you know, Gus Fring. So I'm gonna put it right next to that one right here. I think they're very similar. They have the same weapons being used, and it's kind of similar situations. So I'm putting that in good. I think it's a pretty good duel. It's all right. Now, calling this a duel is generous because only Kylo has a lightsaber, so he just goes to town and destroys all the guys with guns. I mean, it's not really a fair fight if a skilled lightsaber user fights a guy with guns. That's what I think. That's just what I have to say. Now, that being said, it's not like a bad fight. There's some cool moments, and when he pulls the lightsaber out, I gotta admit, even in theaters, even though lore-wise it's kind of stupid to transport weapons with the Force, it kind of defeats a lot of purposes, it's a cool moment. It's relatively cool. And then there's the one scene where he backflips across the room and stabs the guy through the chest, and that's also a pretty cool scene. I think this duel is pretty average. There's nothing great about it, but it's not terrible. I think when I was younger and I made videos a couple years ago, I used to just hate things because they were the sequels. And now I try to be a little more fair. I try to look at it objectively and think to myself, what did I actually think of that? What is not what is the public perception of this? What did I actually think? And I actually think that Kylo Ren thing was not that terrible. It was average. So that's my thoughts on the matter. I feel like I've said that's my thoughts on the matter like a million times in this video. I mean, I really just do think the things that I want to think, because I think them, if that made sense. And that brings me right into today's Things I Love and Things I Hate. That's right, we're back for video 2 of Things I Love and Things I Hate. If you're unfamiliar, I do this towards the latter half of every single video. I mean, I've only done it for 2 videos, but you get the gist. The concept is incredibly simple, and it goes something along the lines of I say something I love and something I hate, and usually those 2 things completely unrelated. For example, today, the thing I love, Noah Khan. I freaking love Noah Khan. I think he's a great artist. I think he makes really good music, and I'm not going to reveal too much personal information, but as a New Englander myself, him singing about New England makes me feel pride in New England. I went to a show at Fenway Park probably about a month ago, and if you don't know, Fenway Park is in Boston, which is like the heart of New England. It's like the New England city, and I've never in my entire life, my 38 years on this earth, never felt more New England pride than in that venue right there, with everyone singing along to, you know, the bars about how great New England is and what it's like to grow up in New England. So I love Noah Khan. I think he's a great artist, and I think statistically he is in my top 3 Spotify of all time, my most listened to artist of all time. So that's the thing I love, Noah Khan. But the thing I hate is leg day. What can I say? Look, I'm 5'10", built like Hercules, jacked out of my mind. I mean, you wouldn't believe the muscles I got, boys. You wouldn't believe it. But as a consequence of that, I am a typical gym bro, and I do really despise leg day. Now, look, it's not because I don't train legs. I do train legs. Unfortunately, I hate doing it, but I do it. I must do it. I'm like David Goggins. I do the things I hate, but man, do I hate it. Never in my life do I feel more pain when I'm working out than during leg day, because my legs are so strong, and everyone's legs are so strong, that you can go so much harder than you think you can. You can squat more, you can do the extensions more than you think you can. It's like it hurts so bad. It like scares me to think about like the pain that I will feel the next day and how far I could really go if I push myself. So leg day I hate, Noah Khan I love, and now let's get back to the video, because coming up next we have Kanan Jarrus versus the Grand Inquisitor yet again. One of the problems with having like one big character and one big villain of a show is that these two characters just clash countlessly over and over again because there's no one else to really clash for them. So that's the reason that we have like a Grand Inquisitor versus Kanan Jarrus on this list. We have that exact duel like a billion times, and I'm gonna put this one where I put the other ones. It's on good. It's nothing special, but it's just a run-of-the-mill duel. Nothing too special, nothing really that big happens. It's just, again, a duel. Hang in there, boys. We're getting close to the end, and coming up next is one of my all-time favorite duels in Star Wars. That is Ahsoka Tano versus Darth Vader on Malachor. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite duels ever. In all of Star Wars, I love this duel. In my humble opinion, Ahsoka being one of my favorite characters, and Darth Vader being one of my favorite characters in all of cinema, I really do think that this duel is one of the most emotional duels in all of Star Wars. I think Ahsoka seeing her old master and what he's become, and Darth Vader seeing that Ahsoka is alive and that she knows what he is really one of the great contrasts of all time. And Ahsoka reaching out saying, Vader, I can help you. Anakin, I know you're in there. And Vader saying, no, you don't. And sadly deciding that he has to kill her. This is one of the great duels in Star Wars. On top of that, the choreography is awesome. Like, for an animated show, they got Vader's fighting style down, they got Ahsoka's fighting style down, and those two things go together beautifully. And I love it. I think it's awesome. There's no doubt in my mind that this is going in Legendary. I'm putting it right here. This is one of my favorite duels. Like, just put it on the record right now. I love this duel. Now, this is Sabine versus, I think that's Gar Saxon. And, I think I sadly gotta put this right here. I have not seen this season of Rebels, so not really fit to rank it. Moving on, boys. We have Ventress versus Anakin and Obi-Wan from the Clone Wars movie, I think, or the Battle of Christophsis. I believe the Clone Wars movie, but I'm gonna be honest, all I remember this from is Lego Star Wars 3, the Clone Wars, the video game. You know that one, the level where you have to fight Ventress and then go fight the spider droids. That's what's coming to mind right now when I'm thinking of this duel. So I'm kind of blanking on the actual duel, but I think it's a typical Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Ventress fight. So I'm gonna put this one in average. I think it's probably very similar to this one right here. And then speaking of the devil, we have almost the exact same one again, because it's from the Clone Wars movie. She's wearing the Clone Wars movie dress. It is almost the exact situation, except Obi-Wan is now swapped out with Ahsoka. It's going right next to this one. They're both average. Now, if you watch my other Lightsaber Duel ranking video, then you'll probably remember that this one right here is not one of my favorites. I think the duel itself is alright. There's one awful scene where they're fighting in the dark like this, Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's just, Anakin and Count Dooku, and it's just the blue and red flashing lights on their faces as they like do this. It's really weird and wonky. I don't like it at all. I also don't like the separation of the two fights. I think it's alright, and I think that both Anakin and Obi-Wan performed terribly, as they should have. It was the point, but it's not my favorite. I think honestly this one's kind of mediocre. I feel like this one's not great, and it's a poor comparison to this one right here with Count Dooku and Yoda. Kanan versus Ezra. Now, I'm sure this is a practice duel between friends as Kanan tries to train Ezra, but I don't, no, it's alright. It's a practice duel. It's barely even a duel. Like, it's not really deserving of the list because it's not really a duel. I'm going to put it on mediocre. I'm going to put it right next to this one. Man, the mediocre list is getting stalked out right now towards the end as we come to the last two rows. So that's where I'm putting Kanan versus Ezra. Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader in the Kenobi show. Now, this duel, in my opinion, is slightly marginally better than the first duel in the show. That's only mostly because Obi-Wan Kenobi actually fights in this time. The choreography is not great in my opinion. I thought the ending was so... It was just... I think Obi-Wan would have had the willpower to say, I need, as much as I used to love this man, I need to kill him for the galaxy's sake. You know, the galaxy, it needs this man to go in order for it to become a better place. I think Obi-Wan would have had the heart to do that. On top of that, I don't like how thoroughly Obi-Wan was being destroyed by Vader until he, like, all of a sudden thought of Princess Leia, and then had this burst of strength where he comes out like a demon and starts throwing rocks and stuff at him. I just thought it was alright. It was a pretty good show. I'm honestly going to put this in average. I was really not impressed, and I think people were, to be honest, people were just happy that it was Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. They did not care about anything else, and they overlooked its faults because of that. Obi-Wan versus Ventress in the Clone Wars movie, and a Clone Wars movie duel is going right up there with the other ones. In average, I'm putting these 3 Ventress duels right next to each other. Very run-of-the-mill, very average in my opinion. Nothing too special about any of them. Now, this is when Ventress duels actually get good. It's Ventress versus Anakin when she steals the clone sample on Camino and she's trying to get away with it, but they all stop her. It's not great, but it's better than average. I'm gonna put it in good. I think that's very fair. I actually like these episodes a lot. Now, throughout this video, I've said this term a couple times, but the most underrated duel in Clone Wars. And coming up next is one of those duels. This is Count Dooku versus the 3 Night Sisters. And he has that awesome line. He goes, he's blind. They've given him something to poison his eyes. He can't see. And he pulls out his lightsaber. Pretend this forks the lightsaber. And he goes, I do not need my eyes to see you, Jedi. And it's one of the most dope lines in Star Wars. I got chills when he said it. Honestly, I started crying too. I was like, that's my Count Dooku. No, I did not do that. I do not cry. But yeah, this duel is awesome. Count Dooku takes on 3 Night Sisters, including Ventress, at the same time and comes out on top. This man is an absolute legend. Nothing he can't do. And again, it's Count Dooku. I'm gonna be inclined to put this, you know what? I'm putting this in great. I really like this duel, and when I think of Count Dooku, this duel is one of the top 3 things that comes to mind. The Mandalorian versus, whatever his name was, the guy with the big armor, I don't even know his name, but what really pissed me off about this duel is that this is the first time we see the Mandalorian not be able to hold a Darksaber out of nowhere because it's heavy, and I do not understand the lore on that, because every other wielder has been able to hold it. Is it because he's not like a worthy ruler, or he didn't take it rightfully? Like, I don't really understand it that well. Basically, the entire duel is Mando going, ugh, it's so heavy. Ugh, and then the other guy going and knocking his lights out and stuff like that for like 5 minutes. I'm gonna put it in. I'm putting it in mediocre. I was actually pretty unimpressed by this. I'm not a huge fan of that duel. Now this duel, however, is one of my favorites. I actually love this duel right here, where Anakin and Obi-Wan fight Count Dooku after he kills Sifo Dyas, or the guy who knew of Sifo Dyas. He walks in and chokes him to death, and then he goes out and he fights Anakin and Obi-Wan at the same time. And I only realized this recently, but he does this thing. Anakin is an aggressive fighter, and Count Dooku puts him on the defense, and simultaneously, Obi-Wan is a defensive fighter, and Count Dooku puts him on the offense. He forces both of them to play against their strengths at the same time, and he takes on both of them. This, honestly, to me, is another great duel. I actually really like this one, too. These duels, both, to me, are like Count Dooku at his best, and I love to see it. I'm always there for it. Next up is General Grievous versus Obi-Wan Kenobi on, Seleucami is the planet. Man, I'm a Star Wars nerd for real if I remember that one. And overall, it's a pretty average duel. Nothing too special about that one, in my opinion. Coming back around is yet another Count Dooku duel, and this is Ventress and Savage versus Count Dooku, and Count Dooku smoking both of them at the same time. One of the best things about this duel is Ventress thinks she's gonna get him. She thinks, oh, Dooku's dead, I'm gonna show him who's boss, and then Dooku comes out of nowhere, holds his own, and not only that, defeats Savage Opress, lightnings him over and over again, holds off Ventress easily, and gets away. It's like nothing ever. It's honestly a great duel, great show by Count Dooku. It's not as good as the other duels, but it's definitely, I'm putting it in good. Not great, but I'm putting it in good. I really like this duel. And we have yet another Count Dooku duel. This is when Count Dooku is training and testing Savage Opress. It's actually very similar to this one right here, where Kanan and Ezra are testing each other and fighting. But it's just Dooku's way more vicious and merciless to Savage than Kanan is to Ezra. But I'm put this right here. It's not great. It's mediocre, and it's not meant to be like a great duel. It's supposed to be, you know, Count Dooku training him. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader in A New Hope. Now this duel, from an emotional standpoint and a confliction standpoint, this is like the OG. Like, this is when these two characters meet again, before the Kenobi show existed. These two characters meet again and come back together and clash, and Obi-Wan sacrifices himself. So that part's really good. But from a choreography standpoint, it's pretty lacking. I mean, Obi-Wan does a full, like, one of these. It just spins in a circle and is like, oh, haha, that will show my former apprentice Anakin Skywalker who's boss. And it actually kind of does. Darth Vader doesn't know what to do with that. Obi-Wan spins and he's like, what the frick was that? I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. So even though this is kind of the OG, I'm going to put this one, I'll put this one in good. I'll put it in good for the emotions, but bad for the choreography. Some guy on YouTube has a way better version of this. There's some YouTube channel that completely redid this fight and made it way better and way more lore accurate to what it would have been, and I love that one. It's called like CG13 or something. I can't remember what it's called, but I recommend you check it out. It's awesome. We're getting to the final 6 now. Final 6, boys. Count them down. And coming up next is Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. Now this duel is awesome. This is the final encounter between these two characters, and this duel is where Darth Maul dies, Obi-Wan finally defeats his old foe, and then does something unbelievable. He holds Darth Maul, his lifelong enemy, the killer of his master, the man who killed his lover. He holds him in his arms as he dies, and he comforts him. And that is truly the nature of Obi-Wan, and that is the best example of Obi-Wan's character in any Star Wars representation so far, I think. Even though the duel itself isn't, you know, a phenomenally choreographed, and it's not even long, it's like 4 swings total, this duel is genuinely, in my opinion, I'm putting this great. I love this duel. I love how simple it is, and I love that it gets across what it's trying to get across, which is that Obi-Wan's finally learned he's not going to get baited into a duel. He just is gonna, you know, do what he has to do, take on the enemy who wanted to take on him first, and then on top of that, show him mercy in the end by comforting him in his final moments. Ahsoka versus the Inquisitors. Now this duel is, I'm gonna put it in good because it is just comical to me how completely Ahsoka destroys these guys. I mean, I think there's one part where she doesn't even have lightsabers and she's still holding her own and doing great. And these Inquisitors, especially the girl, come in so confident. They come in and they think they're it. They're like, oh man. I mean, they ain't even the fart, to quote Ice Spice. They think they ain't even the fart, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna put it in good because it's not a great duel, but I'm still gonna put it in good. Darth Maul and Savage Opress versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. This duel is also a good duel. I'm gonna put this one in good. This is very typical. I mean, these characters encounter each other all the time, but the only thing that's really impressive that happens here is Obi-Wan outplays them and cuts off Savage Opress's arm, and that's a pretty cool moment. But other than that, nothing too... Sorry, the cake's hitting hard. Nothing too insane happens in the duel, so I'm gonna put it in good. I think it's a fair representation of the good tier, and I'm gonna leave it there. Yoda versus Darth Sidious. Now this is like a phantom Darth Sidious, if I recall correctly, so it's not really a real duel, but I said earlier, Darth Sidious, when he's in a duel, you know it's about to go down, and this is no exception. Yoda versus Darth Sidious, before the real one in Revenge of the Sith, the Clone Wars one, this one I think I'm putting in... Honestly, boys, I know I said earlier that Darth Sidious made duels great, but I'm really torn between good and great. And honestly, I think I'm gonna go good. It's not too crazy of a duel, and there's very few real stakes, because I don't think it's actually Darth Sidious. But I'm gonna put this one good. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that. And speaking of the comments, boys, we are in the top. We only have 2 left now. We're in the top 2. Boys, if you got this far, you know what you need to do? We need some kind of code, so I know that you actually watched the whole video and are a true Jedwardian. You know what? Everyone who's still here right now, go into the comments and type, wow, I'm so glad that I watched until the end of the video. And let's go on to the final 2 right now, because we're almost at the end. Ahsoka versus Darth Maul. Now, this is one of the greatest things to come out of Season 7. And I think that this duel right here is awesome. They motion captured it in real life because they wanted to really have that oomph to it, and I gotta say it does. The physics of it feel really real and really authentic, and both these characters are so, you know, good with their style. They got Ray Park to play Darth Maul, they got some other actor to play Ahsoka, and they both play these characters so well. You know what? I have no choice. I'm putting this duel in legendary. There's no other way to put it. This duel is simply legendary. We are finally at the last duel on this list, boys, and I'm so sad to announce that I've never watched this. I've never watched this loser, so I can't even rank it. But this is the final tier list. This is every duel in Star Wars ranked on this tier list right here. And if you enjoyed this video, boys, you need to watch this one, my first video where I ranked every duel in Star Wars. It's very good. I'm very proud of it, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a good day, and be sure to subscribe. See you later. Bye. See ya. Bye.